Here we have a 2007 Mazda CX-7 with a 2.3 liter turbo, and it has a cracked exhaust manifold that we're going to replace. First step is to take off this cover, hides the intercooler, with these fasteners here and here. We can lift this up and see the intercooler. This is the intercooler. I think I'm going to try removing this, disconnecting it down here. That way we can just remove the whole intercooler and have access to the exhaust manifold. We'll see if I run into anything else that needs to come off in order to do that. We'll be using an electric impact, and I'm assuming that these are all going to be metric, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I removed this nut off the stud. It's a 13 millimeter nut. Next I'm doing this. It's 14 millimeters. Keep these safe. You need a Phillips for the hose clamp in the back. Feels loose. I just got this other hose clamp and some, looks like vacuum accessories. The engine is cool. That's probably the recommended time to do this. And it was parked here last night. Use a little screwdriver to break the hose's grip. So this car has been looked at by some mechanics. Doesn't look like it's been put back together all that great, but that happens. Mechanics are in a rush or don't have the parts and need to give it back to a customer. So this hose right here needs to get disconnected. This one right here to this. And that last one go. And then this one back here. And I believe there's one smaller one. Might be tucked under everything now. Yeah, that guy right there. Sorry for the darkness. Yeah, this was around top, right there. So you got 3 bolts that hold it down, and then the clamped hoses that hold it down. And after that, you can lift it right out. And voila, your intercooler. Make sure you don't lose any parts or rubber bushing. That way you isolate the vibrations when you're going down the road. Put this aside. Well, there's the valve cover. And I do have a valve cover gasket. I'm not sure if this needs a valve cover gasket or not. Honestly, it looks really dry, so I may not do that. The next step, it looks like I have way more room than on like Mazdaspeed cars. But that's the heat shield. So we'll take that off, and there's your alternator down there. Take the heat shield off, and hopefully we can go from there with the exhaust manifold replacement. Yeah, all you mechanics out there, make sure you tighten back what you take off. I'm just hand loosening it right now. There you go. One bolt out, no tools. And that one feels like the same size, so I'm going to socket that fits that. For these, at my work, you're required to wear gloves, so I've kind of gotten trained to wear them. Protects your hands from getting messed up when you slip or something breaks loose. Okay, I got a 3/8 drive and a 13mm for this intercooler bracket. Just to get that out of the way, it kind of covers the exhaust manifold area. It goes on there pretty tight, so I'm going to use a pipe and hopefully break this thing free. Yeah, there we go. Look at that, now it's by hand. So this is where this bracket was. And we just removed it so we have clear access to the exhaust manifold area. I'll take the heat shield bolts off. It looks small, maybe like a 10mm. 10 or 8 even. Try an 8mm. Reach them all. So it's good to have hand tools handy. You see that the air filter tangs are off. That's loose. Not really impressed with whoever worked on this car last. But it made it here. Hopefully I got the right part. I haven't seen this. Got a new exhaust manifold off eBay. Save a little time at the junkyard. I found a car at the junkyard, but seemed like it'd be a cheaper deal if you include labor just to get it off eBay already taken off. Alright, well there's actually a leak between the exhaust manifold and the turbo. So they may not have put in a new turbo gasket. Which looks like one of these. So you want to get these before you do something like this. And we'll see, maybe that'll fix everything. Or if I take the exhaust manifold, because it has to come out anyway, if it looks bad I'll replace it. If not, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so now we're on the taking the bolts off the exhaust manifold. I got out the air ratchet. I know that's a little old school, haven't used it in a while, but you know, the nuts are on studs, so I figured it'd be a little faster. Although it took me forever to find the air tool oil. Alright. I broke them loose with the 3/8 ratchet extended handle because they are hard to get broken loose. I did disconnect the battery because we're working near the alternator. So there is a torque order for retightening these, but we'll get to that when we're putting it all back together. Don't think I loosened the ones over here yet. So here's the replacement part. Lets you see how many bolts you got. So I still have a few more to take off. So we're still working on taking the exhaust manifold off. The bolts and the bolt locations, or the studs and nuts actually hold it on, but those locations are pretty hard to get to. So I've lifted the car to see the last two nuts. I don't know if we can get in there, but that's pretty tight. That's probably the hardest part of the job. We'll go underneath. I have a 14mm long snap-on wrench I'll use. That way hopefully I can get enough leverage and reach in a tight area. So here, this bolt looks like it's missing, which could be one of the issues. You know, if the turbo's allowed to move around, it could be hard to seal right there, that guy. And then if we look over here, the studs are up there past that wire. I don't have quite enough room to reach up there, but it's it'll be right through the wrench hole right there. Right there. So we're going to try to attempt to take that one off, and then there's one above it that I have loose, but I can't quite get my fingers in there to loosen the nut. So that's where we are now. Okay, so we got the exhaust manifold out. That's a good sign that it was leaking there. So you can see it's oily, and if you go look at the gasket, some of that oil might be from my WD-40, but You can see that it's got some gasket failure, so we should be able to fix that. I'm going to check the turbo, make sure it spins freely. If it doesn't, this was probably the best time to change it. Make sure, so I had to get under the car for about 2 or 3 of the exhaust nuts. See, they're on studs. So I had to get underneath and do quarter turn, you know, really slow. They are hard to get to, but you know, just be persistent and keep going at it, and eventually you'll get them all. They might be hard to get the new exhaust manifold on, because you know you got to hold the nut to and get it on the stud. But we'll see. Okay, we're back here. I chased a thread on one of the studs. It seemed a little boogered up. Run a tap through the I guess the turbo, so that they go in easy. Let's see, one of the studs stayed in there, the rest came out. I don't know if that's a big deal. I'll just put them in the way they are and make sure they're tight. I'll scrape that surface to make sure no old gaskets on there before I put on the new one. Okay, I'm pulling the tap out of the last hole. Now you can see that one was a little gummed up. Hopefully won't have any problems with it. And we clean the other two. Okay, so I rearranged the lights. Now I'm going to use this to scrape the surface. I don't know if I have a better scraper somewhere, but can't find it, so that's what we're going to do. And you see I put some clean rags in you know, the intake holes, so tools or debris doesn't fall in there. Okay, so I got that surface pretty clean. I ended up hitting it with a surfacing stone because the old gasket was kind of baked and infused on there. So that's a pretty good surface finish. That's probably the only thing I'm worried about, is maybe the surface finish is smoother than I want. So now I'm going to do this too. And first I have a drill with a wire brush on it that I'll go over with, and then I'll probably stone that and this surface here just to make sure it's flat and clean, and then start the reinstall process. Okay, so I skipped some steps, guys. You know, you get into it and you just want to get it done, you forget about the video. But I have the exhaust manifold in now, and all the bolts or all the nuts on each stud, so I'm ready to tighten. There is a tightening torque order, and there's a tightening torque. It's 32 to 47 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna do that by feel, because I don't think there's any way I can get my torque wrench in there. But this, which is available on the internet, has the torque order. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like you start in the middle and work your way out. So that's the next step. All right. So as you can see, I have the exhaust manifold back in there. Both gaskets, the one to the turbo inlet and the one to the head, can only fit in one way. They're not symmetric, by either plane. And before I added the gaskets, I did use a little high temp RTV, which is probably gonna, boil out. But I don't know. That's probably an optional step for you guys. I just want to make sure it seals and thought it wouldn't hurt. It will be pressurized, so it shouldn't go into the turbo or anything. I also vacuumed the turbo inlet. I wasn't able to check the turbo wheel. It's too deep down in there, so we're gonna assume that it's okay. And the next step is tightening down the exhaust manifold bolt. Okay, now we got it all put back together. We got the intercooler mounted and the intercooler shroud on there that directs the air. Now it's time to test start it and see if it has any leaks. There's other noises, but no exhaust leak noise. Hey y'all, it's Ruben. So my cousin came and picked up her Mazda CX-7. We were going to replace the manifold, the exhaust manifold, because the mechanic told her that it was cracked. We ended up not replacing it, and we still have the replacement. The overall failure was this. This is the exhaust manifold gasket to turbo at that intersection. See the kinds of tools you'll need for this job. A lot of 14 millimeter. I used a 3/8 drive, quarter drive, and a 1/2 inch drive, depending on how tight the space was. There was a turbo bracket underneath the car that I took off. In order to give me some space, I had to get to 2 or 3 exhaust manifold nuts through the bottom of the car. The rest I could do over the top. I did fire up the car while the intercooler was off, just to see if I could tell where the exhaust leak was coming from, and that made it pretty obvious also. So that wraps it up. Sorry I skipped a bunch of steps putting it back together. I got in a hurry and wanted it to be done, so hopefully you liked the video. See you later. Bye.